In Module 2, we're looking at history, structure and regulation. And you might immediately think, doesn't that sound really boring? But with the right mindset and with fresh eyes, it's actually a very interesting topic, because what we're looking at is a puzzle. And the puzzle we're looking at is the puzzle of regulation, and specifically here the idea of the co-regulatory model, which is a cooperation between the profession and the state, by which the profession pledges to regulate itself, and the state, on the other hand, agrees to, within limits, let the profession regulate itself and not heavily centrally regulate. And we view this through a historical lens because the legal profession has been through some pretty amazing changes, particularly with the history of colonial Australia, with federation, with all the difficulty of sorting out the federal structure and the different state-based professional bodies. And as I think I've mentioned before, we're about to enter one of the most dramatic periods of change that we've seen so far in terms of the legal profession. So if we don't think of this as just a series of boring stories about things that happened in the past, if we take an eye to the future and we look at where we've been, and I think a clear example of this is the back and froing and the to and froing between the split profession and the fused profession, which is different in different states and it's been different in different types of history. What we're seeing is an evolution in the idea of what the legal profession is, what its boundaries are and what services it provides. And that's all starting to change. We're entering a world of globalization, of outsourcing. We're also seeing new legal roles and new legal careers develop. What's all that going to mean? Now, one of the virtues of a co-regulatory model and of professional bodies is they provide stability. And the flip side of that is that they also become very resistant to change. And when you see a new millennia and you see professional bodies quite often want to hark back to the old days, and often when the representatives on those professional bodies were young lawyers, you can end up with a lot of conflict over that change, and you can see a sense of objection coming out of the profession about new changes. So I think the thing to point to as a way of analogy is the rise of online doctoring in the medical profession. Now, the medical profession is, if anything, more traditional and more resistant to change than the legal profession. However, we now have online doctors where you can Skype in and you can get medical certificates and you can even get drugs prescribed. And the gp2u.com.au is one of, I imagine there'll be many of equivalent services. So I raise that one and give you something to think about. What's that going to mean for the legal profession? Are we moving away from the law offices? Are we moving to this kind of mobile model? And what's that going to mean for us as professionals as time goes on?